We all know this one. I think maybe we don't all know this one because it's not showing up in the real world. Selling a little for a lot is easier than selling a lot for a little. I was just with a consulting client yesterday, and we're having this thing because I was giving him the sales pitch. Because I was telling him, pitch your audience this way, because he's teaching these people this new method. It's like an opportunity type of offer. And I said, ask your audience this way. What do you prefer? Selling 100 people a $1,000 thing, or selling 1,000 people a $100 thing? So, we're working on his webinar pitch, right? Because both of them are six figures. Both of them are 100,000. Now, ultimately, the way that we set up the frame to this audience was, listen, I don't care which one you pick, whether you want to sell 100 things to 1,000 people or 1,000 things to 100 people. It don't matter. Just pick the one you think is most likely for you to do. I'm going to get you there regardless. Because we were talking about believability, and I was showing them this advanced selling frame where we could literally give them this option. So that way we're 100% certain that they're on board with us. But it doesn't matter what they pick, because it leads them to the same conclusion, right? It's sales psychology. But both of them follow the same principle. Selling a little for a lot is easier than selling a lot for a little. We can sell 15,000 people a $200 item and make $1.8 million, or we could sell 200 people a $15,000 item and make $1.8 million. Now people don't get this though. Because a lot of people will get into webinars, for example. They'll get the Genius Webinar course. And by the way, if you did not take advantage of that trial offer, please do. It's a good deal. Take it, and if you don't make your money back, please cancel. You have 45 days, trust me, right? So the idea here, though, is very simple. I tell this to people, I say, how do I get people on my webinars? And I say to them, well, can you put 20 people on your webinar in the next 30 days? And they're like, yeah, duh, of course, right? I said, what if only 5 people buy your $2,000 product in the next 30 days? How much money is that? They say $10,000, right? And then I asked them, most of these people, especially beginners, I said, when was the last time you made $10,000 in a month? And they're like, never. But in their mind, they're thinking themselves failures, right? Because they could only put 20 people on a webinar and only 5 miserable people. That's the number of fingers on a single hand, right? 5. Nobody wants to sell only 5. This is the problem with numbers. People are horrible. This is the way we make irrational decisions with all numbers, but especially with price. Nobody wants to sell 5. They think if I sell 5, I'm a failure, right? When I say, hold on a second, you just made 10 grand in a month, they say, I'm a success because I've never done that before. But they don't get the concept of selling a little for a lot is easier than selling a lot for a little. Now, there's another reason, and I'll talk about it here shortly, of why webinars are so effective for selling premium price goods. But the point right now that I'd just like to make to you is we work backwards. How much do you want to make in the next 90 days? Okay, let's just do this live here. Somebody tell me in the next 90 days, let's say you launch a new course. How much do you want to make in the first 90 days that it goes live? Somebody throw me a number. Just make it up. I don't even care. It doesn't matter what the number is, okay? So Michael came first, 600. 600K? Okay. 600K in the next 3 months. So let's just do some math. If we were selling a $10,000 package, how many people will we have to sell? 60? Okay. So could we sell something? So this is the thought process that we always go through internally. Wilson and I do this. We've made this an art, right? So, okay, if we sold 60 people a $10,000 package, is that more likely or less likely than if we sold 120 people a $5,000 package? I don't know. But it's interesting to think about it. And it may depend, right? There are instances when we say, okay, I think we're more likely to reach our revenue goal by selling $5,000 to 120 people as opposed to $10,000 to 60 people. But then we go the other way with it. What about 20,000 to 30 people? Is that more likely or less likely? So Will and I will spend 4 hours sometimes running through these financial scenarios. if we're working backwards, if we're thinking, okay, we think this can make this much revenue, what would that look like? So first we come up with that solution, that one-of-a-kind solution that we know could be possible, or that we know is impossible. We pare it down so we can always start at the upper limit, and then we play the pricing game. Do we sell 30 at this price, or do we sell 60 at that price? Do we sell 120 at this price, or do we sell 15 at this price, right? Or do we do an A-B option, right? But when we work backwards, it will become evident in a short period of time what the answer is. So let's just say for your sake, it is you decided that you're going to be able to sell 30 packages at $20,000. Well, that's going to dramatically influence your marketing program for this. Now, here's what will happen. Almost always happens this way. When you niche down like that, you actually create a more effective selling message. You're more likely to sell 500 packages by starting out and thinking about only selling 30 packages. Why? Why do you think that is? Michael says, I can't imagine asking for 20K. That's brilliant. I love that. That's perfect. That shows me you have a constraint in your pricing. That's a huge problem. If you can't imagine asking for 20K, you will never ask for 20K. All right? All these paintings on my wall back here. There's a Salvador Dali up here. This is a Chagall right here, right? These are like from a private collection. Would you have a problem selling all these for $20,000 to somebody, Michael? Could you ask for $20,000 to sell these? You could, couldn't you? Because they're worth far more than $20,000. Yeah, and I'll have an Ali over there. You can't see it. It's a signed by Ali. Yeah, I'm surrounded by a lot of art here, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of art. You would sell that for $20 to somebody, wouldn't you? If I asked you, hey, Michael, I'm going to broker this thing for you. I'll tell you what, just give me 20K, and whatever you sell it for above and beyond that, I'll give to you, right? You would sell that for 20K in a heartbeat, right? But the problem is when you look at your own products and your own services, you have this blind spot, and that's unfortunate for your market more so than it is for you. You're denying yourself the ability to make more money, true, but you're denying a lot of other people the opportunity to get artwork for less than they should be able to. James asking, how do you get over this? How do you get over the fear of asking for 25K? There's two reasons, two ways to get over this. One way you're going to hate. Well, you probably hate both ways. The first way is go first. The easiest way I started selling premium price is buying premium price goods. Because I could go to my audience and say, listen, I'm not asking you for much. I'm asking you for $2,000. I spent $10,000 on this, something like this. And honestly, like what I learned from that, I would have paid $20,000 for when it was all said and done. Now going in, I was scared to pay $10,000 and I had to dig deep, and I did it anyway. So if I'm buying stuff for 10 grand, you buying this for $2,000? Are you kidding me? Please. That's nothing, right? Premium. So be a buyer of premium price goods makes it easier to be a seller of premium price goods, right? Yeah, you know. The other way that you do this is you've got to work on the psychology around money. Most of us, unfortunately, have been indoctrinated to have poor views of money and wealth and how we consider our relationship with money. And so, unfortunately, this causes us to make bad decisions with our prices. And so the psychological aspect, unfortunately, there's not very many techniques I could teach you unless I like what I just did with Michael was a reframe. I don't know if you guys noticed that, right? I literally collapsed his model of reality, and then I gave him a new opportunity to consider things. That's a one-to-one technique because I understand the psychology, right? But the reality is the money link is so bad because, you know, I'll just ask Michael this, and I could probably guess his answer. And if it's not his answer, it's a lot of people's answers in this call. Michael, why are you scared to sell $20,000 stuff? Why can't you imagine selling $20,000? What are you envisioning happening if you were to ask for $20,000? What is the scary thing in your mind that you associate with asking for $20,000? And it's not just rejection. Rejection is an oversimplification of the description of what he would experience, right? It's far deeper than that. Rejection is just at the surface level. So what happens if I pay you $20,000 for your thing? What will happen to me, Michael? If you sell me your thing for $20,000 a day, and I give it to you, what's going to happen to me? What's the worst possible thing that you think is going to happen to me? Am I going to get cancer? Am I going to get beat up in a dark alley and my limbs ripped off and hung to dry and tortured for 27 days before I die, right? I mean, the worst thing that could happen to me is I might get pissed off and say, that wasn't worth it. What an asshole. I can't believe he charged that much for it. And then I move on with my life. But in his mind, he believes, because of his own issues with money, that if he charges $20,000 for something and it falls apart, that some catastrophe of the greatest proportion has occurred. Because in his mind, he equates this $20,000 figure as being symbolic or representative of something massive. And I look at $20,000 as a joke. What's $20,000, you know? Now, these are great questions because somebody says, I'd be concerned I'm not providing enough value. Okay? To the billionaire who can't sleep at night, if you could teach them one technique in 5 minutes to allow them to get some sleep, would that be worth $20,000 to them? Would they feel like they got the better end of the deal even? Right? Could be worth more. Could be worth a lot more. Right? What if it was the same thing that you gave away for free on YouTube that you charged this other person $20,000 for? Would that be okay? Do you think they would care? Do you think it would matter? And the answer is no. But because you have an association with spending money and things not happening a certain way equals horrible outcome, you're screwed. And I'll tell you why. These are the surrounding issues with this. You know, you're greedy if you charge too much, right? You're greedy. That's an issue a lot of people have. Who do you think you are to charge that much? That's another issue that people have, right? Again, most of you and me, I used to, have a poor image, self-image around money, right? But again, when you truly understand money, you are not, okay, so let me ask you the question. Were you greedy to take this billionaire's $20,000 and attempt to solve his problem of sleep? Hell no, you weren't. You know what? I've seen people be greedy over pennies. And I've seen people be gracious over billions of dollars. Greed is a characteristic. It's not an amount. You can be greedy over pennies, and you could be the most giving person in the world over trillions of dollars, right? Greed is a characteristic irrespective of what you do or don't charge for your goods. There's no link between those two. I don't know if you realize that, right? There is no link between greediness. I know a lot of poor, greedy people. But people have been conditioned that they have this faulty view of themselves that if I have a lot of money, therefore I was greedy. Or if I have a lot of money, I must have done something wrong in order to acquire it. And that is a huge problem. You know, I got on a podcast one day. This was revolutionary to me. And this woman had interviewed several entrepreneurs before me. And she asked me when I got on there, she says to me, she says, Jason, what's your favorite part about being an entrepreneur? And I respond to her. I said, Kathleen, I can tell you exactly what my favorite thing about being an entrepreneur is. And she says, what's that? And I said, it's the money. And you know what she told me? She says, Jason, I've asked 50 people that question, and you're the first person that's ever answered it like that. Because the reality is like, if I ain't getting rich doing this, I ain't going to be doing this. Now, I don't see a problem with that. I have no issue with that. I have no issue with that at all. So therefore, I am unencumbered by how I decide to price things. Because the name of the game is to make money. What do you call a business that doesn't make money? You don't call it anything. Because it doesn't exist. If it exists today, it won't exist tomorrow, right? Making money is neither good nor bad. How you make money and what you do as a result and who it makes you in the process is good or bad. And by the way, it has nothing to do with being liberal or being conservative either, by the way, because conservatives and liberals, for the most part, have really bad views on money in one way or another. That's because most people in general have been conditioned. Because why? Most people don't have a lot of money. So you're allowing most people who don't have a lot of experience with money give you an education on money? Does that even make sense? So since most of the population doesn't have experience with large amounts of money, and yet they have conclusions about large amounts of money, and unfortunately, because there's a lot of those people out there, you are allowing really dumb people to inform your decision-making for you. Right? Isn't that funny? But that's the challenge, psychologically. So the first way, so again, the easy button, and I say this knowing how self-serving this is to me to say, the easy button is to spend a lot of money with me on high-priced goods so that you could get the experience of what that's like. So then you can become comfortable. Because psychologically, you don't feel like it's a bad thing because you've done it. So when you ask other people to do it, you're not doing anything weird, right? Now, I am slightly joking, although not really joking. But the idea is I guarantee you most of you can go back and think of something that you spent a lot of money on and that you were glad that you did. Now I have also donated millions of dollars to charity, and we keep that very quiet. We don't usually talk about stuff like that. But that's just because I'm a giving person. Now, I was a giving person when I was broke. Now let's talk about criticism, right? Because criticism is a big issue of money. John says, my time is worth money too. You said 75 minutes and it's now 95 minutes. You're going to lose me because you can't stay on track. So unfortunately, you run the risk of losing parts of your market when you do things out of the ordinary, right? So I was intending on going 75 minutes. I saw an opportunity to do a teaching point here, and I felt like it was worthwhile to do it. The trade-off was I got off track. The trade-off was John might get pissed off at me, right? I might even lose him as a customer. So there are always trade-offs. So when you sell high-ticket goods, the trade-off is you will get a lot more kickback. You will get a lot more people being critical of you. And so you have to be psychologically strong enough to be okay with that. The worst, you can't enjoy it, but you shouldn't get upset by it either. I don't enjoy the fact that John said that to me, but I'm not upset by it either. Because I understand certain people absolutely need to stay on topic or absolutely need to stay focused on a certain plan. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to please them. I know people have a certain psychological component about money, and anything over that, they will look at that person and say, you're charging too much, or you're greedy, or you're not worth it. And I'm willing to deal with those consequences because I also know the benefits, not just the drawbacks. Most people know the drawbacks and not the benefits, right?